Hello and welcome to part 2 of my video series Mastering Nakhmanson Gambit. Today we're going to look at one of the most important lines within the Nakhmanson Gambit. I would go even so far to say that this is the most important line. The line that I will show you today is when Black accepts the Gambit and he places his king to e8. I will also cover the moves king to g6 and king to e7, but both are not a problem for white and are even big blunders, and white will win the game right away. But king to e8, this is the main line. This is the line you really have to know by heart. And I would go even so far to say, don't watch this video only once. Watch it twice or a third time or probably even a fourth time, Just get used to the moves. Try to repeat them over and over again so that you are able to play moves without thinking, And as an addition, I also made a leader study, and there you'll find additional lines that I won't cover in today's video. I will cover the most important stuff in this video, don't get me wrong. And by watching this video, you're definitely ready to go out and play the Nakhmanson Gambit for yourself. But I covered quite a lot of variations in quite some detail, and it would be just simply too much if I will put everything into this video, and that's why I cannot cover everything. But just go to Leadchess, check out my study, and there you will find some additional lines that are probably useful for you, So yeah, let's just jump right into the analyze. So without further ado, it's time to checkmate. So yeah, for some repetition, I just decided to start the game right from the start. Let's say e4, e5, bishop c4, knight f6, d4, e takes d4, knight f3, knight c6, castling, knight takes e4, and knight to c3. And this is the starting position of the Nakhmanson Gambit, our desired opening. And here Black decided to accept the Gambit and took the knight on c3 with the pawn. And now white just simply captures the pawn on f7 with the bishop. Black has to retake, and after queen to d5 check, I will show you in this video what will happen after king to e8. But before I have to briefly analyze other moves, let's start with king to g6. And this is already a big mistake, because now we just simply can grab the knight on e4 with check. And Black only got 3 moves. Let's start with the easiest one, king to h5. Failed just simply to g4 checkmate. And another option for Black would be king to f6, but here we just simply can play bishop to g5 check, pinning, attacking the king, and if the king moves, well, then we just simply win a queen. So let's say king f7, bishop takes, knight takes, and right at the moment white is up queen for 2 pieces, and the attack isn't even finished. White will continue with moves as queen to f5 check, rook a to e1, knight to e5, and Black is already lost. The computer gives it already as +10 for white. So this is no option. Let's say he goes king to f7 in this position. Well, then we just simply play knight to g5 check. And I would advise you to picture this position, because we will see it later in the video again. And let's say the easiest one would be king to g8, because then it's just simply mate on d5. If he goes to f6, well, then it's mate in 5, starting with queen to f4 check. Let's say king to g6, queen f7 check, king h6, g4, threatening mate on h5, g6, stopping the mate, knight to e6 check, g5, and queen to h5 checkmate. You don't have to learn this. I guess you will find the moves if you have enough time, and if you just simply think about where are the checks, So here Black could also have played king to e7, but it just simply doesn't help because of rook to e1 check, and after knight e5 and queen takes e5, it's again checkmate. So as you can see, the only way to stop us from mating is queen to g5, but after bishop takes g5, we easily can stop our analyze, grab a queen, for 2 pieces, and again our rooks will come into the game and black's king is still in danger, you know. So this is pretty easy for us. So king g6 doesn't work. He could try king to e7, but this is not a problem. We just simply grab the knight on e4 with the queen, and after king f7 and knight to g5, we again reach the same position we just saw in the king to g6 lines, so we already covered it. So yeah, game over. Good job, you won the game as white. The move king to f6 I will cover in the next video, because this is the engine's favorite and it really deserves some deep analysis, and that's why I don't want to include it into this video. What I can say about the variation is that I really doubt that you will gain it in many games, because it's more like an engine move. A human really wouldn't like to go to f6 with king right into the attack, you know. So I don't cover it in this video, but in this video we will see the more human move king to e8. And here you just simply don't grab the knight with the queen, because, well, why grabbing it with the queen if you could just simply bring a second piece into the attack? And this is why you just simply play the move rook to e1. Your plan is now pretty simple. You want to take the knight with the rook, bring the bishop to g5, and bring in another rook to e1, and yeah, this will be brutal, you know. In this position, I would advise you to think about black's position and what you would play if you're black. Well, I thought about the position for a while, and if I would be black, I would probably play bishop to e7. And this is the most common move in this position. But I have to admit that queen to f6 is probably even stronger. This is one of the moves where I think, again, it's just a move an engine can easily find, you know. I mean, there will probably be humans that find this move, but it really looks like an engine move. And of course, I have to show you what to do against it. And I would advise you to play the move bishop g5, attacking the queen, and the knight cannot take the bishop because it's check. So he has to move the queen to f7, and this was what he had planned anyway, but now our bishop's already on the right square. And here we just capture the knight with the queen. And after bishop to e7, we play the move b4. This may look a little bit strange at the first moment, but it's a pretty good move if you think about it, because black always got a threat of taking on b2, and if you move away, then he could eventually even queen, and we have to go back. So he can win some time, you know. And by playing b4, we stop the threat once and for all. And at the same time, we are threatening b5, attacking the knight. And if the knight would move away, well, then we are 1, 2, 3 times on e7, and so the bishop isn't protected anymore, because we got rid of the knight on c6, you know. So it's quite a useful move. And here black got some options. In this video I will cover d5, because I think this is the most logical one, but also h6 will be analyzed in my Leacher studies. So if you're interested in h6, just check out the Leacher study I mentioned already in the introduction, you know. But let's go to d5. Our queen is attacked, and there's only one good move in this position, and this is queen to h4. Keeping the tension on the e7 square, and we're still threatening b5. So black has to do something, and he does so by playing h6. And we just simply can ignore the fact that our bishop is attacked and still play b5. And here black has to move rook to f8. White captured the knight on c6, and black captured the bishop on g5. And all those moves are kind of forced, you know. Both sides really have to find only moves, because if black would play another move, then he would be worse. If white would play another move, then he would be worse. It's a really forcing line. That's why I don't show you so much alternatives. And game have to continue with the only move, c takes b7, threatening to take on a8, gaining new queen. So black has to do something, and the best move is bishop takes b7. And here white has to find the move queen to b4, attacking the bishop on b7, and again keeping the tension on the e7 square. The best move for black is bishop to c8, and here we have queen to c5, threatening queen to c6 check, winning the rook. So black has to do something, and the best move is bishop to d7. And here white got a nice rook sacrifice. He just simply captures on e7, and after queen takes e7, he can play rook to e1, pinning the queen. So yeah, what can he do? The best move for black is bishop to e6, but after queen to c6 check, king f7, rook takes c6. Black cannot take back the rook because of the check, and white would win the queen. So he has to play queen to d8. And here we have knight to e5 check, king g8, and rook to g6. And this position is already tricky, but it will end in a forced draw by a repetition of moves. For example, right now white could play a move like queen to e6 check, and then the king has to move out, and we could go for queen h3, for example, stuff like this. So let's say black plays a move like king h7. I will cover other moves in my Leech study as well, so if you're interested in this, just check it out, or just think for yourself. There are many ways for perpetual check in this position, but in this concrete variation, a simple way is just simply to move rook takes g7 check. Black has to take it, and then we have queen to g6 check, and our queen will go to h6 and to g6, and yeah, this is a draw. So this was the queen to f6 line, in short. But as I already told you, I would doubt that you will get it too often in your practical games. A much more human move in this position is just simply bishop to e7. And here we just simply continue with our plan and taking the knight on e4. And yeah, as I already told you, our plan is pretty simple. We want to play our bishop to g5 and bringing our other rook to the e file. So a logical move for black would be to play h6, protecting us from going to g5, right? But you know what? This move is actually losing. And I would advise you to pause the video and try to figure out what's white's best move in this position. I give you 3 seconds to pause the video if you need to. 1, 2, 3. Well, I hope you all found the solution. If not, I'll give you a little hint. A bishop move will win the game. With this hint in mind, I give you another 3 seconds to pause the video. 1, 2, 3. Well, the brilliant tactic many players already fall for is the move bishop takes h6. And yeah, this is game over. Black cannot take with the rook because then it's just simply mate on g8. And if he takes it with the pawn, well, you know what? Queen h5 check, king f8, rook to f4 check, bishop f6, and queen to g6 wins the game. There's nothing black can do. He cannot defend the bishop anymore. We will bring our other rook to e1, and yeah, the computer gives it already as plus 14. So you really can trust me if I'm saying this is clearly one for white, you know. So it's pretty easy for black to go wrong, you know, if even a move like h6 already loses the game. And the best move in this position is probably d6. And here white just simply sticks to the plan and playing bishop to g5. And this is the critical position. In this position, black has many moves, and I analyzed 4 moves. I analyzed c takes b2 as the main line, I analyzed h6, I analyzed king f8, and I analyzed rook to f8. Let's start with h6. It's a logical looking move, but after bishop takes e7, knight takes e7, queen to h5 check, king f8, rook a to e1, it's already pretty tough for black to find good moves, you know. For example, let's say he plays a move like queen to e8 to just simply get rid of the queen. Of course, you just simply could trade the queens, you know, but there's even a stronger move for white, and this is just simply the move of queen to h4, attacking the knight 3rd time, and yeah, this is game over. For example, g5 fails to knight takes g5, and yeah, black is falling apart. So better moves for black would have been king f8. And this is one of those moves where I am not sure if a human will find it. I mean, it's understandable move because black goes out of the pin. But at the same time, this really looks ugly. I mean, you always have to fear a move like rook to f4, you know. I'm not so sure if a human will play this move. I really would doubt it, but the computer thinks it's a good move, and of course, computer's right. And we would continue with rook a to e1, bishop f6, and again our move b4. As I already told you before, the move has the idea to stop any c takes b2 threats, and at the same time we want to push b5 to get rid of the defender c6. So in this position, black decided to play, for example, a6 to prevent it. Well, then you have to move rook to f4, pinning the bishop. Knight to e7, the only move to stay in the game for black, actually. And here we just simply can go for a forced draw by just simply capturing the bishop, going for check, king has to go to e8, and here queen to h5, king to 7, and queen to f7. Don't make the mistake, don't go queen to h3, because this loses the game because of king c6, knight d4 check, king b6, queen takes c3, and king h7. And as you can see, black's king found some nice shelter, and if you count pieces, you will find out that you are down rooks. So I think that in this position, we have to all have to agree that black's already better, and the computer thinks so as well. He gives it as +5 for black. So don't go queen h3, but instead go queen f7, threatening bishop to g7 with attack of rook and pawn at the same time. And here the best move is rook to g8 to prevent bishop to g7. And here white's best move is probably queen to e6 check. And here black has to find the move king to c6, because king to e8 loses immediately to queen takes g8 check. And black cannot recapture because of our rook. And yeah, this would be one for white. So he has to go to c6. And now we have a perpetual check by playing queen to c4, king d7, queen e6, king c6, queen c4. You know, he cannot go to b6, because then you just simply have to move bishop e3 check, only move c5, you just simply grab with the pawn, king has to move away, you grab another pawn, and as you can see, black's falling apart. This is just simply game over, and yeah, good job, you won the game. So yeah, this was the line king to f8. And now I want to show you the line rook to f8, because I think this is a much more logical move from a human eye of perspective, because you could argue, well, I tried to bring my rook to f7, protecting the bishop. And here you just simply stick to the plan I already showed you. You just simply play rook a to e1, putting even more pressure on the e7 bishop. And after c takes b2, the only move by black, you have a nice queen sacrifice. You can just simply play queen takes c6, and after b takes c6, rook to e7, queen takes e7, rook to e7. Well, you have a perpetual of checks, for example, king d8, rook takes g7, king e8, rook e7, king d8, rook takes h7, king e8, rook e7, you know, and so on. You cannot win this position, but you have a perpetual of check, and so it's a forced draw. As you can see, many of those lines end in a forced draw, but don't worry, it's not that you are playing for a draw, it's more like black really has to find all these only moves to get a draw, you know. You will see in part 6 of my video course, where I will show you some tactics that black can easily go wrong at one or another point, and then you will pretty easily win the game, you know. So anyway, let's go back to the position. We analyzed h6, we analyzed king f8, and we analyzed rook f8. So what's left is the main move I picked for black, and this is c takes b2. And here, again, you simply just stick to your plan, rook a to e1. As you can see, in nearly all variations with the king on e8, we just simply place our bishop to g5, and then we're placing our rooks to the e file. And this is actually pretty strong, and it's really, really hard to defend for black. And in this position, the best move for black is actually to just simply queen the pawn. So we have to take the queen, and this gains some time for black. And he uses the time to play king f8. A move like rook to f8 wouldn't help, because after rook b to e1, it's already pretty tough for black to find good defending moves. For example, let's say he plays a move like Bishop d7, well, then you just simply can grab the bishop on e7, and yeah, after queen to h5 check, I mean, what can you do, you know? Let's say rook to f7. Okay, you go knight to g5, and this position is already horrible. For example, g6, queen h6. Let's say bishop f5. You just simply grab the rook, and I mean, if you would grab the knight, then this is all game over, you know. Black's position is really falling apart. This position is so hard to defend already. Yeah, so the really only move for black in this position is king to f8. But again, we just simply stick to our plan. We're bringing our rook to the e file, and after bishop f6, because the bishop was attacked and he had to move, we have to move rook to f4, pinning the bishop, and after knight to e7, the only move, we again have the sacrifice of our rook, and yeah, this will lead to a forced draw. This time we can play queen to h3 because there is no pawn on a6, so black's king won't find any shelter, you know. Okay. So this is why we can play queen to h3, and here black has only one good move, and this is king to e8, and then we have queen to h5 check and a repetition of moves. So this is a forced draw again, and if black would play in this move, for example, king to c6, well then GG, because white is already winning in 7 moves by a forced mate. Knight to d4 check, king d5, queen to b3 check, king takes d4, bishop e3 check, king e5, bishop c1 check, king d4, queen b5, threatening mate on b2 of the bishop. So king d5, rook d1 check, king e5, and queen takes d5 checkmate. And if black would play a move like f5, then you simply can play bishop g5, pinning the knight and attacking it. And here the best move is actually really c5, but after rook takes e7, king c6, queen h6, and some more moves, well, we reach a position where black's king is still in some kind of danger. Black is underdeveloped on the queen side. And yeah, white just got a simple plan of pushing h4, h5, h6, and just simply winning the game. Yeah, that's it for the king e8 line. I hope you liked today's video. I hope you learned something. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button. And yeah, don't forget to check out part 3 of my video course, Mastering the Nakhmanson Gambit. See you again once again. Time to checkmate.